A horror movie about a killer sloth? What could possibly go wrong? Oh god. Oh no, it's here. Ah! Hey everyone, it's David Stark from Watch or Pass, and I'm here to talk to you about Slotherhouse, which is coming to theaters on August 30th, 2023. It is coming for one night only, and then I imagine it'll probably be released on digital. So should you go out and see this? Should you run a little faster than a sloth to get to the theaters and watch this? Well, my hot take is I think you should rent it. I liked a lot about this movie. I thought it had a great energy. I really liked kind of the weird set of characters and just the overall ridiculousness of this film, but it didn't have the kind of the gore I was looking for and kind of the scary aspects. I don't think it's supposed to be a super scary film, but I want it to be a little bit more. But that being said, I did like a lot about it. I liked that this film exists, so I definitely think you should check it out eventually. And also, this film is kind of so silly and so weird that it might be a lot of fun in the big theater if like everyone is into it, if everyone is laughing. I can see this being a really fun film to see in theaters. So, all that being said, I'm going to tell you a little bit more of the film, a few things I liked, a few things I didn't like, and then really quickly go into the ending. So, as you can imagine, there will be spoilers in the ending section. If you don't want to know what happens in this movie, I would turn it off when I get to the ending section. Before that, I'll keep it vague. I'll keep it spoiler free. I'll let you know when I get to those spoilers. So, Slotherhouse follows Em, or Emily, who is a member of the sorority Kappa Lambda Theta, and she has been in it for 4 years. She's about to graduate with some of her friends. The sorority seems like a fun group of girls, fun cast of characters, and it is kind of ruled by this president slash queen bee, Brianna. And Em is thinking about running for president. She kind of has always wanted to do that. No one thinks that she can beat Brianna, but a chance encounter makes her think that maybe with the help of a strange exotic pet, she might be able to raise her social media influence and maybe win the presidency. Does this go well? Well, the film is called Slotherhouse, so I can imagine there are some things that don't go well, but you'll have to watch the movie to find out. So, things I liked about this movie. The first, look, I love the ridiculousness. It is a horror movie about a killer sloth, a sloth that you would normally expect to be slow and not very sinister. Maybe it moves a little faster than you expect. Maybe those claws that are normally just for it to grip trees are used to slash people. You don't know, but I just love that this film kind of exists and it has this kind of just strangeness about it. And that is just a fun, like, overall experience. The second thing I love, look, I love the social media style. This film focuses a lot on like social media influence. Em wants to be kind of like an influencer. She wants to grow her social media presence. And you get hints of that throughout. Like characters, when they're introduced, you see kind of like a light social profile pop up next to their head. There are certain like hearts, like Instagram hearts that happen during the film. There are certain like hashtags and social media trends that are portrayed during the film. It definitely has this influence about social media, and it was fun. It was like fun to kind of mix that in with a horror movie about a killer sloth. It kind of fit very naturally, even though it doesn't feel like it would. They definitely complement each other throughout the film. And also in the social media style, there also are a bunch of memes that pop up throughout that are related to the sloth and things that are happening. It definitely helped to kind of give this film a more lighthearted feel and help like increase the ridiculousness. The third thing I love like the bright style. I like when horror films are like this. It is definitely a like brighter, happier color palette than you would normally expect from a horror film. I mean, part of it is because it's in a sorority house, so you have a lot of like pastel colors, a lot of bright colors, but also a lot of it is just kind of this embracing of how silly this film is and how like ridiculous this creature feature is. The fourth thing I love, look, I liked the overall energy of this movie. You can definitely tell that everyone in this is enjoying it, is like having fun. This film feels like a silly film to make. It feels like a movie that probably shouldn't have been made, but I'm glad that it was. And you can tell that everyone was kind of all in. It feels like the filmmakers and all the cast had just a ton of fun making this movie. And that kind of bleeds through into the final product. And the last thing I love some of the references. It feels like there are a lot of like horror movie and pop culture references in this film. Maybe I was reading too much into it, but it definitely felt like there were scenes that were inspired by other movies. There were things that were like reference to other movies. If you like movies, if you're kind of a movie person, then you'll also get like some enjoyment out of those as well. So that being said, things I didn't love as much. The first, it has kind of a long, slow buildup. I mean, this film is kind of billing itself as a horror film. Like the poster definitely makes it look like a horror film, but it takes a very long time for any of the horror to actually happen. And that sometimes happens with horror films, but I was hoping for it to get started a little bit early. It's about 30 or 35 minutes before anything like horror related actually happens in this movie. And I kind of wish it would have gotten started a little bit earlier. And that leads into the second thing. This film needs a few more kind of like gore and scares. Like this is billing itself as a horror movie, and I think it kind of knows it's a ridiculous horror movie, but it's not actually that gory or scary of a film. Like the sloth is super cute, which makes kind of the sinister things it does that much more insane. But I never really felt like tense or scared. There was like one or two scenes where it felt like maybe it was kind of approaching that. And this film definitely goes on the practical side for the effects, which I liked, but it felt like they could have been a lot more gory. It felt like a lot of the kind of like gore was muted for this film. Maybe that was so that I could hit a PG-13 rating. I'm not sure, but I just wish it would have gone a little bit more to kind of emphasize how ridiculous this film is. I wish it would have been like a little bit more gory because look, underlying it all is billing itself as a horror movie. The poster makes it look like a horror movie. So I was expecting to have a little bit more horror in this film. So that being said, Slotherhouse is coming to theaters for one night only on August 30th, 2023. I assume after that it'll come to digital and on demand. So if this sounds like a film that you want to check out, definitely check it out when it comes to theaters on that first night. I think you should rent it. So maybe my recommendation is to wait for it to come to digital and on demand. But this could be a fun movie to see in theaters, especially if everyone is into it. It just has this like an energetic feeling and this overall ridiculousness that could be a lot of fun to watch. So I'm going to go into the ending right now. If you don't want to know what happens in this movie, I would turn it off now because there will be spoilers. So in Slotherhouse, you have Emily, who is thinking about running for class president for her sorority, Kappa Lambda Theta. She always has this ingrained desire. You find out later in the movie that her mother was a past president of this sorority, so perhaps that's why she wants to do it. Also, I think she just generally wants to be kind of like more liked. She is always interested in social media. Her social media hasn't really taken off yet, but she always wants to grow that. So I think she just views this as an overall challenge to both, fulfill her family history and also maybe like raise her social presence. But she would have to go up against Brianna, who is the queen bee. She is like the super popular person at school. She kind of runs the sorority with an iron fist. And she has won the last 2 years. So it's kind of presumed that she's going to win the third year. Well, a chance encounter at the ball puts her in contact with this exotic pet dealer named Oliver. His Instagram handle is OExotic, which I thought was very clever. And when she's looking at his profile, she sees a pet sloth and she's like, oh, that's so cute. And he says, a lot of people are like getting these strange exotic pets to raise their social influence. Sometimes all it takes is one little spark to like raise up your social media presence. So she thinks about it for a little bit and decides to get this sloth. Now, this sloth was captured by poachers from Panama. They kind of sedated it, brought it here. But what the poachers didn't see was this sloth seems to be a little bit more aggressive than your average sloth. At the start of the film, it gets eaten by an alligator, but this sloth survives. It actually kills the alligator and then gets sedated by the poachers. So this sloth seems to be a little tougher, a little bit more deadly than your average sloth. And our little poacher friend Oliver finds that out soon as well, because when he takes that sloth out to get it ready to sell to Emily, that sloth ends up killing him. Now, when Emily comes to get the sloth, Oliver's place is dark. It feels like there's a lot of animals running around. She sees the sloth. He's super cute. He's super nice. She picks him up, takes him to the house. She rescues him and just kind of like steals the sloth from this exotic pet dealer. I mean, he stole it first, so I guess her stealing it is not that big of a deal. Now she brings it to her sorority house, and there she decides to make this sloth a sorority mascot. She calls for a vote. Everyone seems to be enamored with the sloth. Everyone seems to support it. And this leads her to kind of then announce that she's going to run for president. So now we have a two-party race. We've got Brianna versus Emily, but Emily has the sloth power. Is she going to win? You'll have to keep watching to find out. Now, Emily's roommate and kind of best friend, Maddie, sees this sloth and is horrified. She's like, why do you have an exotic wild animal? Why did they take that from its natural habitat? And I was like, no, he's cute. She's having fun. We like her. Maddie seems to have nothing of it, but the sloth seems to like it here. The sloth seems to like Emily. The sloth seems to be having a pretty good time. But eventually, when the sloth is looking through some of Emily's socials, because the sloth can navigate, sure, why not? It sees a picture of Emily with Oliver. That's the picture that Emily snapped. Like when she met Oliver, she snapped a picture for her social media. The sloth sees that and it gets upset. You would think that then it would like attack Emily, but it doesn't. I thought that this scene should have been a little bit later, because after this, Emily takes the sloth down. It's very sweet. It's affectionate. She decides to name the sloth Alpha. It's a Greek reference, and also because this sloth is like now the alpha of the sorority. So Brianna doesn't like that this sloth seems to be raising Emily's profile and causing a threat for her presidency. So she tells one of the girls, Sarah, to get rid of it. Now, Sarah seems sweet, but she also is kind of like does what Brianna wants. So Sarah eventually gets the sloth, brings it outside, just kind of leaves it outside. Not a very, good getting rid of. You would think that if she was going to get rid of the sloth, she would kill it or take it far away. She basically just takes it out of the house and leaves it outside during a thunderstorm. Now, this doesn't turn out well for Sarah, because later that night, Sarah gets attacked by the sloth. The sloth comes into her room and she's getting ready for a late night activity. The sloth spikes her drink with some of its anxiety pills. And when Sarah drinks this, she passes out. She kind of like feels woozy. And then the sloth kills her in her room. And then it apparently locks the room door and gets out. So no one is the wiser. Now, you'd think that someone would know because Sarah was about to hook up with someone. You would think that that person would at least be curious what happened to Sarah. And you'd think that the sorority sisters would be curious what happened to Sarah. But no, they just assume that she went somewhere and never check her room. Alpha comes back to Emily's room. Emily's none the wiser. She's happy that the sloth is there. She was worried that Alpha had disappeared. And everything seems to be fine. But as Emily's campaign progresses, more and more people start to disappear. And they start disappearing in kind of silly, ridiculous things. It's this kind of like montage of campaign events with people getting taken out by the sloth, and they're all pretty quick. They're not gory, they're not really that scary. It's kind of like, you know, an event and then oh no, something happens, and then an event and then oh no, something happens. It definitely has kind of a lighthearted feel to these kills. But it seems that Emily is kind of becoming more and more popular. Her campaign is going off as the sloth is also helping to thin the numbers of Emily's detractors. Now remember, Emily's roommate Maddie didn't like that the sloth was here, so she decides she's going to take Alpha back. And she also doesn't like that Emily seems to be kind of being drunk with this social media presence. She's like becoming more popular, and she feels like, and Maddie's worried that she is like transforming before her eyes. So Maddie gets Alpha and gets ready to take her back. Emily doesn't want to lose Alpha. Emily, like, I think she likes Alpha, but she also likes that Alpha is raising her social media presence. So they kind of fight over the sloth. And during this time, Alpha gets Maddie's phone and like throws it in the street. And so now Emily has Maddie. Alpha throws the phone, and Maddie is just like, you know, annoyed at this. She's annoyed that her friend did that. She's also annoyed that her phone's in the street. She goes to pick it up, and boom, Maddie gets hit by a car. It seems like Maddie will be okay, but she ends up going to the hospital. Emily goes to meet her at the hospital, go to like take care of her, and Alpha stays at the house on election day. Now, Emily's there. Maddie seems to be doing all right. And Emily has to get back to the house before midnight, or else she's not going to be able to run for president. Strange rule, but I guess both candidates have to be there in person. Emily doesn't want to leave, but Maddie says, you know, you should go, you know, go do that. It'll be fine. And so Emily rushes back, makes it just in time for the vote. They have the vote in this elaborate ceremony where people put like flower petals into a bowl and they slowly count it out. It takes a lot longer than you would expect, but it does make for some dramatic moments. And eventually, Emily wins. She becomes the president. She beats Brianna, and the house goes nuts. They have a big election night party. Everything seems to be going Emily's way. But during this time, Alpha decides that it's going to use Emily's phone to look where she was just at. And she sees it was a hospital. She gets in Emily's car. Somehow she drives. Again, it's a ridiculous movie. Don't worry too much about it. But Alpha is able to drive to the hospital. And when she gets there, she unplugs Emily's life support machines, like her breathing machines, and smothers her. So it seems like Alpha is slowly taking out any competition to Emily. Now, back at the house, Brianna was annoyed at the party. She decides to leave early, and she goes to check on one of her friends that was supposed to vote for her but didn't show up. She gets in her room, and that's when she realizes that Alyssa is dead. Now, Em is checking on the house, and she hears some screaming also. She runs in, and she sees Alpha on Brianna's back trying to strangle her. Em hits Alpha with, I think, a paddle or like a toilet top. She hits Alpha with something. Alpha flies off, and now Em realizes that Alpha is a little bit more dangerous than she expected. So credit to Em, she immediately realizes that Alpha's killing people, and she comes to Brianna's aid. So they decide they need to go get a gun. And there's one person in the house who, I guess their dad is a gun nut, so they think that she might have one. They go and find Dakota. Dakota's also dead, but they find a gun in her room, and they seem ready to go. But during this time, the rest of the house is downstairs doing something called trust showers, where they have the girls like walk through various hot and cold showers blindfolded. It's kind of like a little bit of hazing, but also like a trust exercise. It seems like all good fun until Alpha decides to turn up the hot water on one of the showers. This scalds one of the girls. She gets upset, you know, she gets burned, and then Alpha throws some cables into the shower. Electricity everywhere. A bunch of people get hurt. It seems like a lot of people get hurt, but this interesting character named Zenny, who she is like the anti-sorority person. I really like that she was in there. Her character was a little over the top, but she was fun. She definitely didn't care about a lot of the sorority stuff. She was into like sports. She was definitely her own person, and I liked kind of having her character in this sorority. Again, this sorority felt like a very interesting mix of different personalities, and Zenny was definitely one that popped out. So it seems like most of the people in that room are dead or very injured, except Zenny is able to get out also. So Brianna locked herself in the bathroom. Em is looking for the sloth with her new gun, and she's in a room, and that is when Alpha like breaks down a piece of the door, like attacks the door, breaks down a piece. It feels like a very like Shining reference. And then Alpha drops M's phone into the room, and that has selfies from all of Alpha's kills. And M sees all the things that Alpha did. So Alpha then decides to attack the Rush mom. It's a mom that like lives in the house, takes care of the girls. She is an older previous member of the sorority. Alpha decides to take her out, but this Rush mom puts up a fight. She grabs a paddle, beats Alpha like crazy. You think, oh, it might be over. Maybe it's all done. The Rush mom goes and then checks on M. And while the Rush mom is looking at M through the door, Alpha attacks the Rush mom, like basically punches through her stomach, through the door. You see the bloody like claw hand in the door. And now Ms. Mayflower is part of the Sloth's victims. But Ms. Mayflower, before she dies, tells Em that she needs to like stop worrying about what other people think about her. She shouldn't worry about being popular. She should live for others, sacrifice for others, and then those others will see how like much of a leader she truly is. So Emily seems to make a choice. It seems like she's going to go out there and stop Alpha. She's going to help others. Unfortunately, there's really not that many others left in this house. So after Ms. Mayflower dies, Zenny shows up. She was in the trust showers below. She survived. She shows up to check. She finds M, and also Tyler, M's boyfriend, shows up. So now the whole group is together. We've got M, Zenny, and Tyler. They decide they're going to go help save Brianna, maybe the last remaining person in this house, and then try to stop the sloth. So they go get Brianna. Zenny and Alpha fight. Zenny like throws knives at it. Alpha ends up goring Zenny. But when Alpha's about to kill Zenny with a samurai sword that Zenny for some reason had, Alpha gets shot, and Maddie shows up. Maddie from the hospital. She shows up. She's alive somehow. She makes it to the house and comes just in time to save everyone from Alpha. So after Maddie shoots Alpha with a gun, M is about ready to like take out the sloth once and for all, end this nightmare, but the sloth opens its eyes and rolls away. So now Emily, Zenny, Tyler, and Maddie are all able to get out of the house, but just as they're about to leave, Emily says, you know what, I'm going to go back. She's going to go save Brianna, who's still in the house. She didn't get killed, but she's still stuck in the house. And just as she's about to leave, Tyler says, "Don't go back. It's a slaughterhouse." You get the joke. You get that great, wonderful pun of this movie's title right in the middle of the movie. It was funny. It was clever. I like how they kind of like set it up perfectly. No one seems to laugh because it's a bad dad joke, but I chuckled. So there we go. Now, when Emily gets in the house, she sees Brianna with Alpha like on her shoulders. Alpha has like its claws to Brianna's neck, and Alpha's wearing the like tiara of the president of the house. So it seems like Alpha thinks that this is going to be her domain and she's going to be the actual Alpha of this house. Emily throws her sword down, gets ready to fight Alpha, and Alpha attacks her. They have a fight. They duke it out, and eventually during the fight, Emily takes the tiara on Alpha's head, turns it upside down, and stabs Alpha in the top of the head. And this seems to daze Alpha. Emily crawls. She gets a gun. She turns and shoots Alpha just as it's leaping to attack her for one final time. She shoots Alpha a couple times, and she's about to then finish the job, and Alpha looks over sadly and points to a picture of Panama. Panama is where Alpha was from. For some reason, this house has a picture of Panama, the Panama rainforest. Hey, sure, why not? So you don't know exactly what happens, but you get the sense that Emily is going to let Alpha get back to Panama. I don't know, man. Alpha killed a bunch of people. Alpha seems to have a taste for blood. Maybe Alpha should just be like taken care of, and other sloths in Panama should be able to survive. Maybe we shouldn't allow Alpha to kind of influence other sloths, but you know, I think Emily eventually sends Alpha back. Now we do get an update. We get a year later. We see the house. It seems to be buzzing with activity, which is surprising considering pretty much everyone died, but they seem to rebuild pretty quickly. Now at this point, Emily, Brianna, Zenny, and Maddie have all graduated, so they are no longer members of the sorority, but they are still there on move-in day to promote their new organization, Fighting for Ethical Treatment, Care, and Humanity, or FETCH. They finally made FETCH happen, and their organization is there to kind of advocate for animal rights and to like stop poaching and advocate for animals that are captured from the wild. So all is well that ends well. It seems like the sorority house is still strong. It seems like Brianna and Emily are friends now, and it seems like they are doing good things. So during the credits, there's a stinger. We see a kind of tour guide in the Panama rainforest giving a tour, talking about dangerous animals, and we see an alligator approach, and then we see a sloth. And you're like, oh no, that sloth is going to do something. But this little girl who sees a sloth goes up and takes a selfie with it. It seems like maybe now that Alpha is back home, maybe her aggression has lessened a little bit. Maybe her anger for people has lessened. who knows? We'll see. We'll have to wait for the inevitable sequel. And also during the credits, there's also some fun meme images of Alpha and various kind of like internet memes. It was a really fun, kind of clever way to end it. I really liked kind of like the energy that this film had, and that was like a nice cap for this overall movie. So again, that is Slotherhouse. It comes to theaters on August 30th, 2023. Like I said, I think you should probably rent it. But again, it is a ridiculous movie. It is definitely a unique movie. It's definitely something you're not going to see many other places. So if you do go to see it in theaters, it'll probably be a good time. It's only in theaters for one night on August 30th, 2023. After that, I imagine it'll come to digital and on demand. So that's Slotherhouse. Thanks so much for watching. If you like this review, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot. Make sure all my new content goes straight to you. Thank you.